Marcel Reed, Cassius Howell, and the Texas A&M Aggies head to DKR to take on Arch Manning, Colin Simmons, and the Texas Longhorns in a huge SEC showdown. It is win and go to the SEC title game for Texas A&M, very much like it was last year. They played Texas at home last year in their building. Kyle Field, a chance for them to advance the SEC title game, and Texas ripped their heart out. A dominant performance on that side of the football, and the defensive ability for Texas to limit Marcel Reed. And you got to be imagining that Marcel Reed badly wants to get a little bit of revenge in this game. Last year, the knock on Marcel was turning the football over. Well, you rewind to the South Carolina game, it's something that he did in the first half of that game, and it really cost their team. It put them behind in a major hole. He cannot turn the football over against Texas. This Texas defense is still one of the best, without a doubt, in college football. They have talent at every single level. Don't be fooled because of games like Vanderbilt, where in the fourth quarter they're giving up points, or that road loss to Florida where they're giving up yards on the ground. This is a Texas defense that is primed to play better than the way that they did at Georgia. That was probably one of the more shocking losses for Texas fans going into this season. They really were believing this is the national title team. They were building towards the 2025 year. Felt like last year against Georgia, that maybe that team had a little bit more physicality, but this year's team was faster. The returning stars on defense, Michael Taft in the back end, Colin Simmons going to be the best defender in the SEC, and Arch Manning is going to be better than Peyton and Eli. And well, it just turned out that Texas's wide receivers were dropping passes. The offensive line has been atrocious throughout the entire season. Really hurts losing your right and left tackle. Both of those guys get drafted. Kelvin Banks, a top 10 pick, and Cameron Williams winds up going to the Philadelphia Eagles. So this is an opportunity for Texas. Look, if they win this game, are they in the college football playoff? It's possible. They would need a ton of help. They would probably need to win this game. Obviously, would need to have to win to have a chance to get into the playoff. More likely than not, Texas A&M, though, they, in a way to win this game, it looks exactly like the wins for the rest of their season. It's not turning the football over. Anthony Hill Jr., welcome back to another matchup with Marcel Reed. It's very fun to watch Anthony Hill Jr. go sideline to sideline. He's one of my favorite players to watch in college football. Why? Well, that speed, it just pops off the tape. If you remember last year, this was a Vernon Broughton 2-sack, 2-tackle for loss day. He was pretty much the star. Colin Simmons had a really nice day. Look, this Texas team returning so much from that team from last year. You know what they have. Simmons and Moore at the edge. They have Hill behind that, Taft behind that, coming back from injury. And then, of course, Malik Muhammad. They've been working in Grayson Littleton at defensive back, at corner. This is going to be a very tough day covering these wide receivers. And as we really start to really look at specifically what the matchup is, look, Mario Craver and KC Concepcion, these transfer wide receivers, without a doubt, have been the most impactful transfer portal players you would have to say in college football this year. I know John Mateer has been pretty effective this season, put in Oklahoma in the college football playoff conversation and what that team has done. But Concepcion and Craver have taken A&M from being a team that last year really didn't have all that much of a scary passing attack. They ran with Marcel Reed's legs, and it was occasionally an explosive play. This year, without a doubt, is a bona fide top 5 passing offense. One of the most scary teams in the country to face because of course, Marcel Reed's legs. Got to start there. And then you talk about Ruben Owens and the damage of what he's done on the ground throughout the entire season. And then early in the year, it was Moss. And they've obviously had to go to Owens a lot more of late. But this A&M team, once again, they live and die by Marcel Reed and his efficiency and what he can do on the ground and when he's not turning the football over, which he really hasn't had the propensity to do this season. But that second half against South Carolina, that's really what A&M fans were like, fans were like, we think that we can win the national championship. We believe that we go down the field here and attack the middle of the field, the outside, the perimeter. KC Concepcion, 158 yards. Ashton Bethel Roman, I know he got banged up in that game, 139 overall. He did a tremendous job. Look, this was a game where Mario Craver was a bit shaken up and didn't exactly know the status for him, getting him a little bit healthier. Obviously, that's huge against a team like Texas. Having this wide receiver duo available and healthy, it's pivotal, it's key. But then you start talking about they go 3 deep with Bethel Roman. You're talking about what could be the best wide receiving core, a group of 3 guys or more in the sport of college football. So against Texas, one-on-ones with their opportunities, it feels like Concepcion or Craver, they have the ability to score anytime. Literally anytime that they touch the football, it feels like they can score, and they just take off, and that run after catch ability, the separation. Texas knows all of this. They know. They've looked at the film, and they've studied. Kwiatkowski's looked at everything and said, okay, Marcel Reed's not leaving the pocket. He's not going to have the ability to extend plays. I'm going to make Marcel beat me within the tackles. I'm going to make Texas A&M run the football. I'm not going to get beat by those wideouts. That is an identity. I trust my defense. This is not so dissimilar to your matchup. Remember, Texas has experience against playing elite wide receiving corps. They played Ohio State back-to-back. Remember, Abuka, Tate, Smith, in that semifinal game, limiting them. Week 1, they saw Ohio State's best receiver duo in the country, whatever, them, Texas A&M, whatever. They're both elite. But Smith and Tate limiting both those guys. There was explosive play to Tate. And you look at the way they defended that, keeping the top on it, almost like an umbrella defense. 2 high safeties. And not letting them take any of the deep shots. That has to be there against Texas A&M. You have to force Marcel Reed to trickle the football down the field and force them to drive the length of the field and almost dare them to run the football. Because if you're daring them to run the football, what does that mean? More likely than not, they do. Texas A&M, Mike Elko, they're a prideful bunch. They're going to say, you're going to give us the ground game, or we're going to take it immediately. This is a ball game. Why? Those drives take longer. You're not as explosive taking those shots, going down the field quicker, getting more possessions. Texas shortens this game. It favors them. You don't want to get into a track meet, a Wild West, a Texas shootout against A&M this year. You just don't. You don't really believe that Texas has the capability of going score for score with A&M. They haven't done it the whole season, and the way that Texas is built, they have to be on schedule. A&M, I mean, shoot, 3rd and 11, Marcel Reed, first down. I mean, you usually talk about the importance of first down, second down, picking up yards, staying 3rd and manageable. Not with A&M, not with how prolific this passing attack is. I think they can be dangerous on any down in this game. Where it's going to come down to is turnovers and red zone efficiency. If it's 4th and 2 in the red zone, you just have to pick that up and be scoring touchdowns and not be kicking field goals. That's where it comes down to. But 3rd and 12, I know Texas's pass rush is darn dominant. That's a passing down for A&M, and it almost has as a chance for them to do what they do best, which is passing the football down the field. I know that there's a lot of balance here, but if I'm Texas, that's what scares me the most when I think about that game against Vanderbilt, how Diego Pavia scrambling around, making plays with his legs, and you're giving up 21 points in that 4th quarter, and they go right through you. This is it wasn't so dissimilar to the way Marcel Reed looked in that second half, that 3rd, 4th quarter against South Carolina, just dicing them apart after a great first half. Sure looked like South Carolina wasn't quite the same team. But then you think about Blake Shapen and that Mississippi State squad. 381 yards, 4 touchdowns that day against Texas. I mean, we're talking about a defense that isn't that dominant level last year. I think they had only given up 4 passing touchdowns all season through the air. And then they gave up like 3 or 4 or whatever it was to Cade Klubnik in that first round of the college football playoff in that win against Clemson. And this cannot be a game where you're relying on your back end in coverage. You got to protect your defense, and I believe that would be more of a recipe for success. So I think there's an advantage Texas if they play to their strength and taking away the deep ball, force Marcel Reed. Is he patient enough? You know he's been impatient at times to really chuck the ball in there and not hand it off when he's supposed to, or really try and make the hero play. Force him to make the right read 9, 10 out of 10 times and not just be able to go rely on his talented wide receiver. So we talked about the matchup, Texas's defense versus A&M's offense. Now let's go into Texas's offense versus A&M's defense. I don't know how you can start talking about Texas A&M without what has been the best defensive player in the Southeast Conference. That is Cassius Howell. Scouts like talking about his arm length. I like talking about his ability to disrupt the quarterback. This kid is unbelievable. He does it as well as anybody in college football. That is why he will be a first-round pick come April 2026. He is fantastic getting after the quarterback, a very good run defender. And why will Texas A&M give Texas struggles? Well, it starts with the passing rush as a whole. Sanford, he's been great. Hayes, the whole season, this has been an A&M team that attacks teams. The high-powered passing attack, get the football in its pass rush and flying downhill, getting after you. Dalton Brooks has been, you talk about 6, 7 names on this defense, guys, that have been very good for them. For Texas, look, I think it's pretty simple. If they can run the football, they can win. If they can't run the football, they will lose this game by 2 scores. You cannot look at a game like this one and see Texas run the ball like the way they did against Mississippi State. That can't happen. You can't have a game where you rush for less than 3.8 yards a carry. That's for starters. If it comes to that and you're in 3rd and long, it's not that Texas A&M offense with those wide receivers. These wide receivers for Texas are very talented, but they have not played to their standard or to that level you really thought that they could be. We're talking about first-rounders, Xavier Worthy and Matthew Golden the past 2 years, first-round pick wideouts for Texas. You were thinking Ryan Wingo's on that track. He absolutely could still be. I'm not knocking and saying that Ryan Wingo can't be a really good NFL player one day, but he's dropped too many passes. He hasn't been the reliable target that you thought he would be going into the season. And if you would have told me that Ryan Wingo, in going into the final week of the regular season, had less than 1,000 yards, I would not have believed you, less than 10 touchdowns on the season. I just thought that it was such a given he was going to explode with an opportunity within this offense. So last week against Georgia, that's as ugly as it gets. Not last week, 2 weeks ago against Georgia. That's as ugly as it gets. 23 yards, 1.4 yards a carry. That can't happen. And you're going to want to talk about the game that Georgia played, and it came down to the onside kick and the 4th down. No, Georgia won the line of scrimmage. Even if Texas recovers the onside kick, they stop the 4th down. Texas was not moving the ball on the ground. Georgia was the better team for 4 quarters. Except the start of the game, they go down, kick the field goal. They were dominated, made it 14-10, and Georgia put the hammer down, 21 points in that 4th quarter. A mobile quarterback in Gunnar Stockton had that rushing touchdown. Look, this Georgia team is not that too dissimilar from A&M. What I see in Georgia, though, is a lack of the true explosive ability of the downfield attack that A&M does. Georgia's a lot more underneath, relying on wide receiver blocking, doing a good job of wide receivers getting through contact and extending plays and run after catch, whereas A&M, it's down the field. Marcel Reed really picking guys apart. Not that it's not underneath and relying on the athleticism of Craver, Bethel, Roven, and Concepcion, but this is an A&M team that offers more in the downfield ability. Look, Gunnar Stockton's been great. I'm not knocking the guy. He's been putting up a campaign that's worthy, but possibly to get himself into New York, doing that well against this Texas defense and picking them apart. 94.4 rating, completion percentage over 80%. We're just talking about ridiculous stuff. one of the games of the season, no doubt, against Texas, especially in that spot where it's a must win. It's like Texas would have been ahead of Georgia in everything if they had won that game. They would have been 8-2. They would have been 5-1 in the SEC, and then Georgia would have been 6-2 in the SEC, and they would have had no shot at the SEC title game. Whereas now they somewhat do if a little bit of craziness happens. If Texas were to beat A&M, maybe if Auburn winds up beating Alabama, a lot of crazy stuff can hold here. That's funny. They're going to be rooting for Texas. There's no doubt in this one for them to beat the Aggies, and of course for Alabama to get that second loss, and that would put Georgia in the title game if just Alabama lost, I believe, and Georgia with one SEC loss, they would be in there playing A&M for the title game. Amazing to think about that. But Texas, this offense needs. I talked about the run game. They can't have drops. We can't be having drops. That's a simple thing. We'll move past that here in a second. But production from the outside, the perimeter, because that's really the area for A&M. I love that front seven. The back end has been pretty good. But if there's a part of A&M that I want to attack, you think about what South Carolina did. You think about the speed of those wide receivers, and you're looking at a guy in Harbor, go the length, 80 yards down the field, catch and run. Texas has that capability. They've got guys. DeAndre Moore Jr. is a guy that can fly. Of course, Ryan Wingo. Parker Livingston, he's been a freshman standout, one of Arch Manning's targets that you have really loved throughout the entire season. Look, Texas will have an explosive play. I see it at some point here. This game, remember, folks, is at home for Texas. And Texas on the season at home, they have been a far different team than what they've been on the road. The loss at Ohio State on the road at the Chute. The loss at Florida at the Swamp. The loss against the Dogs between the hedges. All of those losses on the road. So you got to remember here that Texas is undefeated at home. They are a far different caliber team. Even 2 overtime games against Kentucky and Mississippi State. I don't have to explain it further than that. They are an elite, a great home team, and very tough to beat when they are in their home building. The only team to do that a season ago, of course, was the Georgia Bulldogs. So this is a game where I really believe that home field advantage, it's worth like 6-7 points in the SEC. I feel like this is without a doubt a one-score game. Crowd is into it. This Texas team energized. If this game were at College Station, I mean, shoot, I think A&M wins this game by 9-10 points. Instead, I have a feeling like this could be a 2-3 point game either way. I have a lean towards A&M initially in this game just because of the consistency of Reed, of the offense overall. Even if they struggle like they did against South Carolina, not to that extent, but they have their struggles, a turnover here or there, that you believe they can get themselves back into the game with the right arm of Reed. Arch Manning, though, it feels like that you won't see any of the spectacular ability or that to that level you've seen from Reed until next season, coming back another offseason under his belt and come back and try and be the quarterback that a lot of us thought that he would be this year. But before all of that, there's this massive SEC game, a chance to prove a lot of the haters somewhat wrong, get the biggest win of his career, and show that there's a lot more to his game and end the season on a high note. I mean, this is what we all talk about. Opportunities like this just do not come around every day, where you get to play an elite caliber top 3 team in Texas A&M, and it's in your building in front of 94,000 people, the 90,000 plus. This is a real testament to Arch if he's able to put together a day where he's got 2 touchdowns, a touchdown on the ground, and be thoroughly competitive with a chance to win this game against an Aggie team that really believes that they are a national title contender. With that offense and their pass rush to that standard, and when the run game is balanced in Marcel Reed's legs, that's exactly what they are. You're probably looking at Ohio State, Georgia, A&M and Indiana as your 4 national title contenders. With the Alabama loss, it really doesn't look like that team with their inability to run the football is of that caliber. Of course, A&M, the way they looked in the second half, almost undoes the poor play that they had in the first half of that game. So you're certainly got that sort of wiped out of your mind. But it's still there somewhat. There's a lingering feeling that could at some point we see this team drop off and just have some stank to it for 2, 3, 4 possessions and struggle. And a guy like Dylan Stewart blows up plays where Colin Simmons is another true sophomore. He's got the ability to have that type of impact on this game. And Texas knows how to win. They know how to win at home specifically. And if they have a lead, they get up 7-3. If they get up 17-14, this is going to be a crazy, raucous DKR environment where they're going to be off the walls, absurd, and that's not where A&M wants to be. They got to come out starting hot, quick start to this game, getting 3 points, scoring a touchdown, and settling themselves into the game where they can establish rhythm and attack down the field. For Texas, slow, right? Get into this game. Let your crowd settle into it. Not taking chances, just really getting the football to your playmakers in space, letting them do what they do best, which is making guys miss, giving your wide receivers opportunities. That's exactly what this mold has to be. You don't have to do anything fancy to stay in this game with A&M. That's how good your wide receiving core can be at its highest end, at its peak level. That's what you know this wide receiving core can be. Arch Manning has shown great arm talent. That's why he was the first overall player. That's why he's the number 1 recruit in his class, because of the downfield passing attack or way he can layer throws in the middle of the field, change velocity, the athlete that he is. Of course, we all remember his touchdown. That was the play of the game. It's going to be shown probably 10 times the entire day for this Friday game. They're going to be showing that Arch Manning run that came in a major spot. You were looking at a game that was, at the time, I want to say, was it 7-0 or was it tied? It was want to go back to it. I want to say it was the first touchdown of the game. It's a 0-0 game, and then Arch Manning runs it in. Yeah, on a 4th and 2 at the A&M 15, Arch Manning 15-yard run to give them the 7-0 lead, a 93-play drive. So that really was like the play of the game, got them into it. Just exactly as I'm saying that for A&M, you get that touchdown this time, you get up 7-0 on the road, and it changes the entire environment. I mean, A&M fans are ready to explode everything that was on the line in that game. If they're able to pull that one out, my goodness, that place would have been going crazy. It was throughout the whole game. And, I mean, this team didn't score in the first half, and they get a late touchdown. And there's the interception, the fumble in that third quarter of that game. It's 17-7, but really it felt like Texas was fully in control. That can't happen to A&M. It really seems unlikely that it does. If it were, that a 17-0 lead would feel pretty dang safe for Texas at home in this game. That's not at all where any team wants to be on the road in the SEC. That's an A&M team that had that game at home. That was at South Carolina. That's an entirely different story. I think that's why it's very impressive for Alabama. Ty Simpson led that drive, the touchdown, 2-point conversion, and then the Deontay Lawson fumble forced on Lenore Sellers. They get the late touchdown to Jeremy Bernard and beat South Carolina because it was on the road. There haven't been a ton of marquee moments for teams on the road in the SEC this season. I mean, A&M, you think about the strength of this team, but they haven't played. I mean, their biggest win was against Notre Dame, not within the SEC. That's one of the best wins in college football the whole season. Against LSU, at the time, I believe they were ranked, right? They were 25 in the country. It got the head coach fired. They blew him out. They were down 4 at the half and then put it together. So if you want to say that one for Texas, that hasn't been the case. I mean, we talked about the 3 losses they had, the 2 overtime games on the road. That this team's been been struggling on that part the whole season. I guess maybe Alabama at Georgia, you'd have to say. Georgia, I think, was a top 5 team at the time, getting the win against them. So there have been some really good ones on the season, but it's very tough to do in the SEC. Going into there, beating Texas is tough, but I think they can do it. 26-24, I believe, will be the final score, with Texas A&M pulling off the win and punching their ticket to Atlanta, Mercedes-Benz Stadium, to play. Most likely it will be an Alabama team if they are able to win the Iron Bowl the day after this one. That is a primetime game on a Saturday night, the night after this one. So fired up for this one. Are you kidding me? The way that last year's game didn't quite deliver fully. Still a lot of energy and juice in that game, so it was exciting. But this year, I think we're in for a classic, a true classic. It has that feel to it. There's no doubt that A&M feels like they are a title contending team. You got to get a win against Texas. Remember, back-to-back semifinals for this program. Sarkisian dealing with a ton of flack from the press and everything. Talk like, how do you feel about this disappointing season? Like, look, guys, he's saying we didn't rank ourselves and we were ranked number 1. So I don't know about these expectations. I get what they were saying, though. Like, look, there's expectations for a reason. And with Arch, really, it was a quarterback that people hyped up, put on this pedestal, and just wasn't ready to play at that level as other people were expecting him. And so there were unrealistic expectations based on what you had seen from him and what you hadn't seen from him, expecting him to be something that he just isn't at this stage of his playing career. I think this entire experience is going to be very positive for him, and then this game in and of itself is going to be incredibly valuable for Arch's career and his senior season, or playing as a redshirt junior, you could call it, or I guess it would be his senior season, right? His 4th year with Texas, and that could be really helped by a game like this against A&M. So that's my prediction. 26-24, A&M gets the win on the road. Let me know down below in the comments what you think of this prediction. Does Texas have enough in them to get the win here against A&M, or do you believe that Marcel Reed and A&M are able to pull a perfect season in the SEC in a 12-0 fashion going into the SEC title game, going 12-0 overall, 8-0 in the Southeast Conference? That would be unbelievable. Very tough to do, and it would be looking like they are, without a doubt, a bona fide contender, which is what they have been throughout the year. But a loss here out of the title game, most likely, and they probably fall to 5-ish, 6, potentially 7, right? Maybe down to 7, because you want to be in that, either get a first round bye or be in that 5 or that 6 spot. 5 spot means you play a group of 5 champ. The 6 spot means you play the ACC champ. If you're in the 7 spot, you got to play Oklahoma. You got to play Oregon, or you got to play, Alabama. It just really gets tough when you start. You're playing Notre Dame potentially. There's some really tough teams that you got to play. 5-6, much more favorable. Obviously, the first round bye, just punching your ticket to the quarterfinals. That's exactly what they're looking to do here. So thank you so much for watching this Blitz with Blinder video. If you have not already, subscribe for more content. I'm Josh Blinder. I make NFL and college content weekly, getting you set and ready for these matchups. We have huge college football playoff implications, national title implications potentially for this game and the way that it impacts the season. We circled this one back in April, knowing what was coming Week 14. This game, without a doubt, is going to deliver. It's going to be an instant classic, a great game. 2 good defenses, quarterbacks looking to use their dual threat ability and deliver on the big stage. So get down in the comments. I'll try to get down there and respond to as many of you as I can and engage. It's really fun to see that passion and interact with all of you. I appreciate it so much. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Enjoy your Thanksgiving and your Thanksgiving weekend.
Best player in college football.
That Georgia and Ohio State game, New Year's Eve, is going to be a classic.
Josh Blinder, hi everybody, I'm Josh Blinder.
To the 40, 35, 30, Espinosa to the 20.